Hi everybody, welcome to another of our video interviews as part of our 7 themes in people analytics. And today we're joined by Olly Britnell. I'll get Olly to introduce himself.
Hi, Julian. Good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. So Olly Britnell, I'm currently Global Head of People Analytics at Philip Morris International. I've spent probably the last 20 years or so in the whole area of data analytics technology, both consulting on it, but also in-house roles as well. So delighted to talk around the subject that I'm very passionate about.
Oh, that's awesome, Olly. Thank you very much. And obviously there were 7 themes in the paper, but to keep things concise, I'm going to ask you to talk about 3 of them today. Which 3 themes would you like to talk about today?
So I think the three that are closest to my heart are around the technology infrastructure side of things, engaging stakeholders and the whole area of sponsorship in this domain. And then lastly, change management and adoption, both within the function and the organization as a whole.
That's great, Olly. Thanks so much. So starting with tech infrastructure, we always like to start with, maybe share something that you've seen and you tried and actually worked at Philip Morris that you would ask others to think about.
Yeah, sure. So I guess when thinking around this topic, I've actually sort of had experience of, I guess, the 2 broad strategies that a lot of organizations take, which is building your own from a reporting analytics perspective. So the whole kind of data warehouse and visualization side of things, which is what we currently have at Philip Morris. And then I've also experienced buying off-the-shelf products from a reporting analytics perspective as well. So I think kind of my perspective on it is clearly there's pros and cons to both of those different strategies. I think with the decision making that you need to take has to be very much in the context of the broader organizational IT strategy and HR tech landscape as well, of whether you're shifting to the cloud, for example, as the overall infrastructure, or is IT very mandated in terms of having an enterprise data ocean, etc. So I think my advice to others would be very much build those relationships with those stakeholders early on to really understand that vision, as opposed to going to what you think as the right solution from a people analytics perspective around it.
Great. And then perhaps, lessons learned, something you tried where, you would sort of ask people to think twice, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. So I think talking around my time that I was at Experian, we bought an off-the-shelf product and solution, and I think what worked really well with that is clearly you've got content that is purpose-built from a HR perspective. You've also got some of the fundamentals around sort of the definitions and those pieces built within the product, within that solution as well. So that means you're able to shortcut some of that in terms of what you need to do in-house, and in turn that meant we were able to focus much more around actually using the insights, using the data, being more provocative with the data that was coming out of the platform, as opposed to some of the nuts and bolts activity, which you certainly get from a build your own solution as well. And I guess to give the flip of that for the build your own, and certainly what I've experienced at PMI over the last kind of 12-18 months or so, is I think what that gives you is much more the ability to be more bespoke, to be more tailored to your organization in terms of needs and requirements. I think there's also an element around you've got more flexibility in terms of the look and feel and the integration side of things. So from a user experience perspective, you've got more flex to do that. And we might touch on this later on when we talk about change management as well, but making it easy for people to get to places, to understand stuff, to see where they need to go for reporting, insights, analytics, is a fundamental to get people to adopt, to get people to change, to make it easy. And I think that is certainly one thing for the build approach that helps that.
Great. And what's sort of next? What are the next things you might be trying in the technology and infrastructure arena?
Yeah, I think as you know, there isn't a silver bullet out there in terms of technology, right? And there's lots of technology out there at the moment that is sort of trying to get into the space. I think the sort of broader total listening approach is something which again is obviously a hot topic that's out there, of how do you really combine that sort of more passive O&A type data, traditional survey information, text analytics, with the whole buzzword of generative AI and chat GBT and all of that, of how do you bring that together alongside your more traditional kind of metrics and KPI data. I think that's what we're sort of wrestling with at the moment, is that something that we in-house need to think about? How do we build that capability and piece those elements together, or is that something we should be looking for from a vendor or from a technology house that's out there? So I think those are some of the kind of bigger areas that we're focusing on. I think the other one which is an interest to me is around the whole health and well-being area, obviously off the back of COVID and the challenges that came as a result of that in the workplace. I think that remains clearly a hot topic for organizations, and the use of data to inform that in the right way for both the employee, so giving the employee a read of going, well, actually, yeah, based on my data, actually, I need to be thinking about this from a health and well-being perspective, but also from an organizational perspective. How can we be a bit more proactive with that data to highlight where there might be hotspots and actually take action on it as well? So those are 2 or 3 things that are kind of bubbling around for us at the moment.
Yeah, and maybe just to pick on your first point there, so I guess, the employee listening piece, are you seeing in wider HR perhaps more interest in, I guess, what you could call the employee experience and perhaps how you provide the rest of the HR services?
Yeah, definitely. I think we have a dedicated employee experience team at PMI, for example. So like we've invested in that and have that as a conscious piece front of mind. And as you say, certainly we have kind of the traditional sort of moments that matter type surveys, from joining, onboarding, leaving, moving across the organization. So we have insights across all of those different elements, both from a process perspective of just how is it working and how is it operating, and that feeds into our HR operations teams, but also how do we, from an analytics perspective, take some of the insights of those experiences and connect it to actually what we're seeing from an outcome perspective. So whether that's attrition, whether that's mobility across the workforce, whatever the particular link is, but really trying to connect some of that up together as well. And I think the text piece is one which, obviously there are text analytics solutions out there, but I'm not sure anyone's really cracked it to give that real insight at the right time on large volumes of qualitative information that's coming in.
Yeah, definitely. I think those are all really great points, and we're definitely seeing people analytics teams we're working with at the moment is people trying to join up the data across COEs and across HR operations and with business data as well, to try and better understand what drives basically employee behavior and performance as well. So I think it's a super interesting area. I agree with you. I don't think there's a single vendor. I think there are a multitude of vendors at the moment. So that definitely makes things challenging.